across the south, and then thicker medium-level cloud coming into the west, turning the sunshine milky by the afternoon across Northern Ireland, West Wales and Cornwall. But where we've got the sunshine and the light winds elsewhere, it's going to feel very pleasant. Temperatures back up to 22 to 24 Celsius. Then into Thursday, a change in conditions once again as a weather front sinks some rain southeastwards across the UK. This tends to weaken as the day goes on, mostly dry towards the southeast. Friday, more changeable weather to the north with some wind and some showery rain, drier and warmer to the south.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Drivers should be cautious on the A9 Dornoch Bridge due to high winds. Maintenance on the M4 eastbound at junction 24. Coldra closes slip roads. On the M42 southbound between junctions 10 and 9, a collision has shut 2 lanes, causing a 50-minute delay. The M25 clockwise at junction 25 has a lane closure for a tyre change. Anticipate congestion on the A303 westbound. All lanes are closed on the A27 westbound due to a collision. And on the trains, cross-country and Greater Anglia services are disrupted at Stansted Airport. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
This is your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for an entire year. We'll give you a cash lump sum that will cover 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an incredible £20,000. Plus, we'll add £5,000 on top of that for you to treat yourself. You have to hurry though, as lines will close on the 29th of August. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. After a year of campaigning, I might finally have got my way. The government say they will now give us the details of the ethnicity of those that commit, or at least are arrested for sex offences. We'll be joined in the studio by an innocent couple who happened to find an illegal migrant in the back of their vehicle and face a fine of £6,000. And tonight we'll pay tribute to James Whale, who died yesterday, who was genuinely a pioneer of broadcasting over the last half a century in our country. But before all of that, let's get the news with Sam Francis.
Nigel, thank you, and a very good evening to you. Just after 7 o'clock, the top story tonight. A new one-in, one-out migrant deal between the UK and France has come into force today, aiming to send some Channel migrants back across the water within just days. The EU-backed pilot lets Britain return asylum seekers deemed inadmissible in exchange for taking in others with UK ties. But critics say the scheme is too slow, just 50 returns expected each week. That's despite more than 25,000 crossings this year alone. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper insists it's just a trial and won't confirm exact numbers. She says doing so could aid people smugglers. But Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says it will make no difference at all.
Well, I just don't think this scheme is going to stop the crisis that we've got. We need to stop the boats. This feels like a scheme that's just having an exchange with France. One in, one out does not reduce numbers. It does not reduce the number of people who actually want to come to the UK. And 50 people a week, I mean, that means 94% of the people coming each week get to stay. That's not good enough.
TV presenter Jay Blades has been charged with 2 counts of rape, West Mercia police have confirmed. The repair shop host appeared via video link at Worcester Crown Court today over a separate charge of controlling or coercive behaviour. He denies the allegations, which relate to his estranged wife between January and September last year. The 55-year-old father of 3 is due to appear at Telford Magistrates Court on the 13th of August over the rape charges, and a full trial on the coercive behaviour charge is expected at a later date. Meanwhile, Tommy Robinson has been released on bail after his arrest over an alleged assault at St Pancras Station in London. The activist flew in from Faro in Portugal after spending time in Tenerife, where he reportedly travelled following the incident in July. Footage appears to show him walking away from that scene at the time of the incident. He was arrested just after 6:30 yesterday evening on suspicion of grievous bodily harm. And British Transport Police say he remains under investigation. Systemic failures left the UK's prison system just days from collapse more than once. That was the warning from a scathing new review by former Chief Inspector of Prisons Dame Anne Owers. She found the service had been repeatedly pushed to the brink with failures across planning, leadership and funding. The report also reveals that the cost of building new prisons has almost doubled, now hitting more than £10 billion. It paints a picture of a system under severe pressure, with warnings repeatedly ignored and a crisis narrowly avoided. And in Scotland, pass rates have risen as pupils have been receiving their exam results. Students there have been finding out their national grades, Highers and advanced Highers. Official data shows there's been a slight improvement in grades on last year. And GB News reporter Tony Maguire has been speaking to some of the Scottish students.
I did really well. I managed to achieve 5 A's.
5 A's, wow, and yourself?
And I've managed to get 1 A advanced higher, 2 A's at higher and 2 B's, another 2 B's at higher, but I already had an A at higher from last year, so.
Maybe stop showing off now, yeah. I think, you know.
Yeah, they're both really happy, so we just wanted us to work hard. If we worked hard, we didn't care what grade we got.
Yeah, I got on really well, I got straight A's, so I'm happy, I'm chuffed.
And did you expect that?
No, not at all. Apps of maths, I was so scared that I walked out that exam and I was like, I think I've failed, and the fact that I got straight A's, I'm proud of myself and the hard work's paid off.
That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you at 8 o'clock. Now, though, it's over to Nigel.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. Let's begin with some good news. Yep, the official figures were out at the end of last week, and for the month of July, GB News has now become the United Kingdom's #1 news channel. Yes, we're ahead, way ahead of Sky, and we're ahead of the BBC News channel as well. We are the #1 news channel, and that, folks, is because of you. It's because of you. And by the way, they are just television ratings, not radio ratings, which of course we do simulcast, and we're the first firm in this country to do so. And I reckon, you know what, given people's viewing habits and listening habits are part of their lives, within the space of 4 years, without massive resources, to have gone from absolutely nothing to that position is a mega achievement. And my feeling is it will only grow from here. So a big thank you from me. I started this show 4 weeks after GB News officially launched. I've been with it for the last 4 years, and I must say I'm honestly, genuinely very proud to be a part of it. Now, this time last year, in the wake of the horrific murders in Southport, I said 24 hours on that I genuinely thought we ought to at least know something about the identity of the attacker. And I was slagged off in a way you can't even believe. I was the one fomenting discontent in the country, and yet, following what happened in Warwickshire last week, where the alleged rape of a 12-year-old girl led to the police and the local government saying, we must not reveal the identities of those that have been arrested. And it turned out 2 of them, Afghans, had come by boat. And I kicked up a hell of a stink with the leader of Warwickshire County Council yesterday. Well, you could have knocked me down with a feather, as the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, said this morning.
We do want to see more transparency in cases. We think local people do need to have more information. It is an operational decision about how much information can be revealed in the middle of a live investigation, but we do want to see greater transparency. That's why we've asked the Law Commission to accelerate its review into what the rules are around what information can be released and when you've got like a legal case, a court case going through, given all the issues about making sure that there's a fair trial, so that we can try and increase the transparency. And we're also working with the College of Policing on strengthening and changing their guidance as well.
Oh, a year ago, to even ask about the immigration status of those who committed vile offences or sexual offences was to be literally an outcast from polite society. But everything has changed, as, of course, this government U-turns on virtually everything. So do you think the truth has been concealed from us? I'm certain it has. Let me know your thoughts. Tweet hashtag Farage on GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. Now, I'm joined in the studio by Sir Ronald Jar-Warner, former Conservative MP and Minister, and Joe Phillips, journalist and former Press Secretary to Paddy Ashdown. Really interesting, Joe. Even the Times today reporting that there's been a huge increase in the number of convictions for sexual assault or rape where no ethnicity has been revealed. Is today, I mean, you know, we know that the country's at boiling point with all of this. The argument that was given in Warwickshire was they shouldn't mention the Afghan status of the alleged for fear of community tensions. But we've had enough of all this, haven't we?
Well, I think there are several points here. One is that I think the more people know that there will still be some people, Nigel, who will choose to believe what they want to believe, and will always say there's a cover-up. And there is no doubt that, you know, when something happens like the appalling incident in Liverpool a few weeks ago, there were people hoping and praying, only a minority, we hope, that was going to turn.
But wasn't it funny that they almost immediately said a 53-year-old white man?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and that is two-tier in many ways.
Well, it is in some ways, but I think there were people who were hoping and praying that it was going to be, you know, an asylum seeker or something like that. I think, you know, you're absolutely right. The country is at boiling point for understandable reasons, which we've discussed a lot. I think it's really important that in providing transparency and information, there is also an understanding that we cannot start living in a country where every brown man is a potential rapist, because we are in grave danger then of actually forgetting the white men who commit crimes.
No. We've got enough problems as it is with Indigenous Brits.
Exactly.
But isn't the real point here that, and by the way, I'm not saying anything that prejudices the particular case in Warwickshire. I know the lawyers are watching. But the fact is that Afghan males in Britain are 22 times more likely to be convicted of rape. There is a real... And actually, it's not a racial problem as much as a cultural problem.
It's also an age problem, because the number of young men who are being arrested, you know, I mean, the sex crimes tend to be carried out by and large by younger men, generally speaking. So if you have got a lot of young men, then it stands to reason.
Hang on a second.
No, I'm not.
A lot of young men from Germany are far less likely than a lot of young men from Afghanistan.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there is a problem, and there is a problem of perception, there's a problem of reporting, there's a problem of, you know, cultural differences and all of those things. And I think Yvette Cooper is absolutely right to put pressure on the police, because up until now, it has always been, and it is the case, I mean, Ranald will know this, he was in government, the government has said, no, it's police operational matter.
Yeah, and they've been hiding behind this. I mean, Ranald, you know, I mean, frankly... There have been a gigantic series of cover-ups on this for fear of inflaming community tensions. The same mentality that led to Rotherham, in my opinion.
Well, look, I don't think necessarily we should say everything's a cover-up. Some of it's the data... hang on.
Well, Warwickshire was.
Some of it is the data hasn't actually been collected, which is part of the problem. So
and that's been deliberate.
So it's absolutely right that that's now being reviewed. I welcome what Yvette Cooper said. I do think that it's one thing, though, just looking at stats, and another thing, actually trying to catch the criminals. And, you know, if we're going to go down this road of saying we want to fix this problem, we want to keep people safe in this country, particularly women and girls, then perhaps we should look at not just fingerprinting people on entry if they come here illegally, but perhaps taking DNA, so that we're actually checking who is in this country. We've got a tracker on each person, so that if they did commit a crime, then we know who they are, who did it, and we can actually go after them. That's actually, I think, the more important point, which is trying to help people, trying to reduce crime, rather than just looking at the facts of the
I mean, this is, I mean, what is happening here, and, you know, I completely take Joe's point, that if this turns into an argument against anybody, you know, whose family generations ago perhaps have come from a different culture, we're in a very bad place. But I've been told today by somebody, a former senior Home Office person, that now the numbers coming in through Dover are so great that we're in many cases not even interviewing those that come in now, not even sitting down and trying to assess whether they're a danger or not. And that's why I've said again and again, I genuinely think what's happening in the Channel is a national security crisis.
Well, I think, you know, two things. One, I think Ranald's absolutely right, but, you know, I have to ask you, Ranald, as I do every week, why didn't you do anything about it when you were in government?
Well, hang on, you gues were in government as well for a period of time, so there we are.
Yeah, there we are, folks. There's an admission, they're both as bad as each other, there's no question about it.
But the DNA thing, obviously, would also go some way to age verification, which is a huge problem. And, you know, given the sort of fingerprinting thing, you would also then have, oh, this person is a known criminal from another country, you know, and we've got that ability to send them back, but we don't know that. The other thing, just on the Rotherham thing, you know, we have heard...
We covered up there.
Well, yes, Nigel, but we've also heard in the last week or so that some of the victims have accused police officers of also raping them. And that has got far less coverage.
I know. Well,
you know,
by the way, we have covered it on this show.
Yeah, I know.
And, you know, final thought on this topic. I am told there are up to 14 protests planned for this Friday at migrant hotels across this country. How worried are you about what happens over the next few weeks?
I'm very worried, because I think there will be elements within those protesters, you know, who will go there with the sole purpose of creating trouble, and somebody will get killed, you know, either by accident or deliberately, and communities will be rent asunder, as we saw in Southport and we've seen elsewhere. You know, we've had decades of riots. You know, we remember Brixton, we remember Toxteth, we remember Oldham, you know, all of that. We don't need to go down that route, but we do need... and we need to be mindful of the people
I fully understand that there'll be masked Antifa activists, there'll be thugs from the far... and there will be, but actually... Ranald, the truth is most people that turn up will be concerned parents.
No, there will be a lot of people who are genuinely concerned people, and, you know, I respect that, and, you know, no one wants their children to go out and be assaulted. So
but the
totally understand that.
The anger that we've not been told the truth.
Well, but this is why it's really important that whilst respecting and acknowledging the concerns of those people that simply want to look after their children, we should also be absolutely resolute that there is a far-right tendency there that is simply trying to...
Well, hang on, there's also a far-left tendency.
Oh, for sure.
So, you know,
but the far-right groups are trying to whip up things in a particular direction, which isn't focused on...
And why Antifa are allowed to turn up wearing masks at demonstrations so we can't see their identities is quite beyond me.
Well, absolutely. But I mean, and the other thing is that I think one of the things that we should be proud of in this country is the right to a fair trial, whoever you are. And that's important.
And I have worded everything I've said today and yesterday very, very carefully in that regard. And actually, Jonathan Hall KC, who is the independent reviewer of terrorism legislation, said after Southport and again in the last few weeks, the public have a right to know the cold, hard, sober facts without prejudicing a trial. And by the way, if you're worried that Ranel's auditioning for The Godfather, it's actually because he's been suffering from a bit of a sore throat. In a moment, I have got two guests coming into the studio. They've travelled down from Lancashire. They were off touring in Europe. They found themselves on the way back to Calais, unbeknown, stowing away an illegal immigrant, and they went from being victims of a crime to being guilty of one.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, some of your viewer reactions. I said to you, has the truth been concealed from us about sexual crimes committed by those who've come into Britain illegally? Sam says, our elected government used to work for the people of this country. Our streets and borders used to be patrolled and enforced. Too little, too late. Well, at least Yvette Cooper did say something sensible today. Jenny says, Nigel, isn't the suggestion in not publishing the data that the public can't be trusted with the truth? That is exactly what we've had for some time. Now, here is a story that you might think is very, very unusual, and yet it would appear from official records that it's all too common. Unbelievably, over the course of the last 18 months, £30 million worth of fines have been given out to commercial lorries and trucks and individuals who've been coming back from the continent who found illegal stowaways on board. This story is about a couple from Lancashire who've come down to join me in the studio. Kev and Sian join me today. And as I understand it, Kev, you've been touring in Europe.
Yes, that's correct.
Having a jolly time.
Excellent time.
Good.
With some good company.
And then you're on the way to Calais, and what happens?
Right, we decided to drop off at Dunkirk first, do a bit of sightseeing there, and then into Calais, and we realised we were running a bit short of fuel, so we thought better pick up some petrol.
Yep.
Pulled into this Total car forecourt, nobody there, no cars there. We filled up, Sian went to pay. Unfortunately, I had to go.
Yeah, fine.
And we're not joking when we say we're talking about no more than a 2-minute window.
Yep.
And we didn't think any more about it.
And then off you go.
And I thought I'd locked the car. All right? So I hold my hands up and I thought I'd locked it. So off we drive. We get to the harbour. We get through ticket, through passport, through British Border Force, and then the French Border Force pulls us over. And we're going, what's going on here? They asked us to get out, take us to the back of the car. And they opened up the door, and there was our friend. 6 foot of him crammed into the back of our 4x4. There was no space for a normal human.
And you had no idea that he was
No
there?
idea at all.
Absolutely no idea.
So you must have been very, very shocked. What happens next?
Well, they removed the man from the back of the car, took him away.
We're showing pictures of the car now.
first.
Yeah.
Yes.
Searched him first, yeah.
And we were taken to the Border Force offices.
Yep.
And we were interrogated for quite a long time.
3 hours in all. 3
so
hours.
you initially must have thought that you'd been the victims of a criminal attempt to come into the UK, effectively.
And we were given the information that they were asking of us as if we were like victims, and we're saying, you know, this is the information that's important to help in their cause to prevent all this.
Yep.
And then we find out, hold on, we're now the guilty party and we're faced with this ginormous fine.
And by the way, folks, I do not believe for a moment this couple were attempting to traffic anybody into the United Kingdom.
Thank you for that.
Suddenly, no, I believe you. I do believe you. And suddenly you're facing, effectively, you're now guilty of something.
Yes, it was really very, very distressing.
Yeah.
And after all of this, you discovered something in the back of the car. We're going to put a picture up on the television now of what you found. A knife.
Yes.
Yeah, a Stanley blade.
So the guy's in your car. He's got a weapon with which he could have caused you
a bit of grief,
mortal harm. And at what point do you get told that you're going to face a fine?
It was a week later when we got a letter from the Border Force notifying of our liability under the Asylum and Immigration Act 1999.
Yeah.
So we had to look all this up. We weren't aware of this legislation. And the 12 checks we're supposed to carry out every time we stop in France. 12 checks.
And what's extraordinary about this is that you're, potentially facing a £6,000 fine. But as I said at the start, £30 million worth of fines over the last 18 months. This is several thousand lorries and people that it's happened to.
Yeah. And you've got to remember, the legislation that they're talking about is primarily directed to commercial trucks and coach drivers. And you're not expected to be directed to holiday makers.
And the irony, folks, that the criminal traffickers who organise the boats across the Channel very rarely get caught. And the innocent folk going about their business face a serious fine. Something is really, really wrong. Now, I understand, Sian, that you've, not that you would have thought about it anyway, but you've now designed an advert.
I have.
Which is up on the screen here. So you've designed this yourself?
I have. I really felt that there wasn't a lot of information, or no information at the ports at all, that you should be checking your car, and that potentially there's a fine if somebody is found to be hiding in your car. So I thought, well, let's just mock up a...
Lock, check, Yeah, well, Kev didn't lock, of course, but we're not blaming him. We're not blaming him completely.
Oh, no.
And this is very simple. But then, what on earth can you do unless you're constantly checking the car every single time you stop? So, is the idea, Sean, that this sort of gets put up, you know, as you approach Calais?
Yes, it would be really useful when you initially book your ferry or your train to France that you have this information to hand, so that it, you know...
Or it's at the harbours, or it's on the boats. There's enough about alcohol and tobacco and not bringing fresh meat and dairy products. Absolutely nothing about this.
Given the farce, and I say farce, of 160,000 people, nearly all young men, having crossed the English Channel in the last few years, how do you feel about all this?
Well, this is why we wanted to flag this up. I mean, we feel really terrible about it, and we've been really trying to flag it up with an awful lot of people. And I have to say, it's only thanks to you guys that we're getting this airplay to actually make people aware when they go abroad they are liable. They've got to know about this legislation. Otherwise, they can get caught. So it's our frustration and anger with this system that's buried this legislation.
Sean, a final thought to you?
Well, as well as this, you know, Border Force are doing a good job in difficult circumstances. And I think if more ordinary holidaymakers were aware that we should be checking our cars, then, you know, we'd be giving them a hand, really.
Well, I think you're both very brave coming in publicly to talk about this. And by the way, these folk are not on their own. This is happening to a very large number of people.
Correct.
Most dare not talk about it. Frankly, most people probably feel quite ashamed of the fact that they've been caught in this situation. You've come on and talked about it. I hope other people who are coming back from France after their hulls, before you get to the ferry terminal or the channel, just check and make sure no one's in the roof box or no one's in the boot. But it says so much about the modern world that actually it's the innocent that seem to pay the price for the guilty. In a moment, we will talk about students in this country from China spying on our universities, our people and our businesses. Can this really be true? I think it possibly can.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Around eastern parts of the Mediterranean, we have some showery rain, which could be a little bit heavy at times. It's a drier picture further west, albeit some showery rain not too far from Madeira at the moment. Worth bearing in mind, temperatures across parts of Portugal and Spain, they're rising. We're going to get some heatwave conditions through the next couple of days, with temperatures peaking in the low 40s. But like I said, across parts of Greece into Turkey, here we do have some showery rain. Otherwise, the outlook is for things to be largely dry and sunny.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a very unsettled, stormy start to the week, the winds over the next 24 hours will ease. It's going to be drier for most, with clear spells overnight and plenty of sunshine. During Wednesday, summer weather returns for the time being, with high pressure building back into the southwest. That's helping to kill off the showers into the evening. But there is an area of rain that's just going to affect the north of Scotland for some time, before becoming restricted to the far north as well as Shetland and Orkney. Elsewhere across the UK, clear spells, lighter winds. As a result, temperatures dipping into the single figures in sheltered spots. But plenty of sunshine first thing, certainly some decent sunny spells across the southern half of the UK. There will be a few mist patches for parts of southwest England first thing. They'll lift pretty quickly in the morning, and then blue skies for much of England and Wales, Northern Ireland likewise, southern Scotland through the central belt. Now for the north of Scotland, here we've got thicker cloud and some patchy light rain through the morning. But even this is tending to drift further north into Orkney and Shetland, and it will clear mainland Scotland during the morning. But the sunshine elsewhere prevails. There will be some build-up of cloud during the morning and into the afternoon. Initially just fair weather cloud across the south, and then thicker medium-level cloud coming into the west, turning the sunshine milky by the afternoon across Northern Ireland, West Wales and Cornwall. But where we've got the sunshine and the light winds elsewhere, it's going to feel very pleasant. Temperatures back up to 22 to 24 Celsius. Then into Thursday, a change in conditions once again as a weather front sinks some rain southeastwards across the UK. This tends to weaken as the day goes on, mostly dry towards the southeast. Friday, more changeable weather to the north with some wind and some showery rain, drier and warmer to the south.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Story broke today. It's not completely unique, but it's rather specific. It says that Chinese students who are coming here to British universities are now being pressured to spy on what's going on in this country and to report back to a Chinese Communist Party. I'm joined by Sam Dunning, Director of UK-China Transparency. What's the story here?
Well, we conducted a survey of China studies academics in the UK. So that's people who study China in the UK. And one of the things we were told is that Chinese students are telling academics, in some cases, that they are being asked to spy chiefly on other Chinese students.
So reporting on their own fellow country people?
Well, exactly. I mean, one of the Chinese Communist Party's biggest anxieties, if not their biggest anxiety, is losing power. So the prospect of Chinese students being in Britain, able to speak freely and discuss things, is not something they like.
And going back and being subversives, effectively.
Exactly, exactly.
But am I not right in saying that British universities, I know Cambridge, but I'm sure there are many others, British universities have increasingly taken large amounts of money from the Chinese government?
The key thing is that most universities would go bust if they lost the Chinese student fees.
They go bust?
And couldn't replace them. Absolutely. There's no doubt about this. I mean, it's a looming crisis in the higher education sector.
But if they're spying on each other, what's to stop them spying on other things that go on in this country?
Well, there's some evidence to suggest that Chinese students who study science, technology, engineering and maths are supposed to report some things about their work, but also their colleagues' work, if they receive certain scholarships. We know that China very aggressively pursues, intellectual property, etc., etc. But it's important not to exaggerate this, but it's a very real phenomenon.
Ranald, you were in government. I mean, clearly, when George Osborne and David Cameron thought China was our future, they got it wrong. But then very few of us before 2012 really saw China as a threat. I mean, were you aware of a growing concern about effectively Chinese spying and even theft of intellectual property?
Absolutely. As Minister for Trade, I visited a number of businesses who said that there's a real problem for them. And there was one business in Peterborough I visited, 3D printing. So, they can do all sorts of things just through a device as big as a microwave or maybe a little bigger. And they said it'd been ripped off to such an extent that the manual had errors in it in English that had been translated into Mandarin. I mean, they word for word copied it. And, this is a big problem. But I think it is also, in respect to the point about universities, I think you've got to make sure our universities do have the brightest and best from around the world. So there's a very careful balancing act to have here. You want to make sure Britain has always had people from all over the world, America, Canada, India, yes, China. We want to be able to shape the future of this whole world. It's a great opportunity for our economy to develop if our universities have the IP.
I'm not sure.
The key thing, though, is we don't often convert that IP into products. And so China ends up doing it. So we've got to learn a bit from them and do a bit of what they're doing to us back to them.
Well, maybe, Joe, we just take fewer Chinese students.
Well, I was just going to ask Sam, I mean, what are the universities doing about it? Because are they sort of trying to keep it quiet because they want the money to keep rolling in?
Well, this is my worry.
Or are they actually taking it seriously? Because if a Chinese student is spying, for want of a better word, on another student, presumably they're also spying on the academics and the lecturers and the researchers. And so what happens when they go to the universities? Are they told to sort of go away and don't worry your pretty little head about it?
I think some universities are taking this very seriously. I mean, the new paradigm is what they call research security. They do screen students from countries like China, Iran, other countries. But it's clear, I mean, there's STEM and there's the humanities, and our survey is about the humanities. STEM is different, but it's clear there's a lot of unevenness across the sector. Like, some universities are really putting their heads in the sand. I think it's clear.
Yeah, but I mean, we see, Confucius Institute, others. I mean, there are genuine attempts to propagandise through British universities. I mentioned Cambridge earlier, but it's broader than that, isn't it?
It's much broader. I mean, it's systemic. For decades, the Chinese Communist Party has weaponised access to China. So if you're a China expert who's looking at something that they don't want you to know about, ethnic cleansing in Tibet, Xinjiang, these are vast areas, politics around Taiwan, but also the CCP's own security and internal politics. Yeah. You're not going to go to China if you write something they don't like, and then your credibility is shot. And over the scholarly generations, that kind of pressure, I think it's clear, can build. I mean, if your credibility is shot, your students, they're not going to become in. They can see what's happened to you because you upset the CCP. So maybe they're disincentivised to do that kind of research. And I think over the decades, that's got worse. And now there's another pressure, which is the fee dependency. So it used to be just, you can't access China.
This is the point.
Absolutely.
And now, actually, that repression has reached into the UK. Yeah. And you have university administrators, in some cases, saying, don't do that research because we need the money, basically.
Yeah, and that is not what universities ought to be all about.
Not.
Sam, thank you for coming in, talking about it. It's a really important subject, and it's one that we'll come back to again and again and again. Now, by what the Farage moment, I like being right. Do you remember this Jaguar advert that came out last November? It was the most extraordinary thing. I mean, have a look.
Bonkers.
I mean, what this had to do with Jaguar motor cars, I really don't know. I pretty much immediately put out this tweet where I was very, very convinced. Yes, I said, mark my words, Jaguar will go bust. And since then, they have their sales of claps, they've sacked people. And today, Trump said on Truth Social, Jaguar did a stupid and seriously woke advertisement. That is a total disaster. The CEO is resigned in disgrace and the company is in absolute turmoil. Who wants to buy a Jaguar after looking at that disgraceful ad? Shouldn't they have learned a lesson from Bud Light, which went woke and essentially was destroyed in a short campaign? Well, do you know what? I was miles ahead of this. And the Prime Minister and PMQs have been saying Nigel Farage wants Jaguar to go bust, but it is a case, is it not, of go woke, go broke?
Absolutely. It's absolutely bonkers, that advert. And I have to say, I also loved what Donald Trump said about the American Eagle advert as well. He said...
he likes her because she's a Republican. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Joe, go woke, go broke.
Well,
realism coming back.
But I don't understand what that advertisement was for. Look,
Nor did I. It was woke. Nor did I.
Well, don't use woke as just a lazy thing because you don't understand it. It's just, it was pointless. It looked like an advert for deodorant.
It was totally...
I mean, I don't have a problem with adverts, and I actually think, if you remember the Benetton ads that people got upset about, and various adverts that people have got ever so, in conniptions about over the years. But if it makes you think and it makes you... I mean, we're talking about Jaguar, but I'm not going to be out buying a Jaguar. I think it's worse.
Well, it was odd, because the CEO said Nigel Farage is not our target audience. Well, I thought I was exactly their target audience. Yes. Another what the Farage moment, sad moment. Over 1,100 pubs and restaurants have closed since the budget. Hospitality. Now, quite a lot would have closed anyway, but that extra couple of % on the wages, for the average pub another 9, 10, 12 grand a year, whatever it is.
Yes.
Disastrous, isn't it?
Totally. I mean, we've talked about this before on your show.
Yeah, I know.
You know, the fact that NI went up, but also that the threshold went down. So a lot of part-time workers, disproportionately in the hospitality and retail sectors. This has been absolutely terrible as a policy, hurting people's livelihoods, closing businesses and costing people their jobs.
Yeah. And finally, completely unscripted, you see, Joe is a bit of a Jeremy Corbyn supporter. And she's going to tell us why.
Because I am absolutely bloody furious.
Yes, you're furious.
I know, furious that the government is even contemplating allowing councils to sell off allotments. Now, I have nothing in common with Jeremy Corbyn, but he's a great allotment holder, as is Stephen Pound, former Labour
regular
MP,
on this channel.
as is John Curtis, leading pollster. And we are all absolutely furious because allotments are, like pubs, the heart of the community, and they have been there for centuries, and they have been there for working people who don't have space. And we need to grow our own vegetables. So, you know, for once, and only once, one night only, I'm with Jeremy Corbyn.
See, we always knew through this show that Joe was very much leaning towards the extreme left. No, actually, I think, well, what about it, Randall? Save our allotments?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it should be a
It's part of our heritage.
Absolutely.
And in every village, every town across this country, it's important.
There you are. Allotments are everything. In a moment, we're going to pay tribute to somebody who died yesterday. He was a genuine friend of mine. I'd known him since the 1990s. He was literally a pioneer in broadcasting. He invented talk radio in Britain. He was a shock jock. He was James Whale. He was highly entertaining. His co-partner Ash, with whom he worked for 30 years, will join us after the break.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
James Whale, MBE, died yesterday, aged 74. Back in 1974, he began a phenomenon in this country which had started in America and never been seen before, and it was talk radio. Members of the public ringing in, having a conversation with a host, and the host could be nice to them, the host could be provocative. Let's see a little bit of some of James's moments over the years.
What happened to our freedom of speech?
Are you completely stupid?
No, but I agree.
I think you might be.
I mean, I might touch you. Is that offensive?
I'd rather you didn't.
Okay.
Every night from 10 till 2, Whaley's on the line for you. Give me a ring. I'll be there, the mega mouth of radio.
Do you think I would suit a hairpiece or not?
Yeah.
Do you think I would?
I like men to look like me. I like that shaved off look. I think that looks great.
Well, you can't. I have no choice.
James Whale, irreverent, fun, always had a very, very big audience, whatever he did, on radio or on television, and was a broadcaster for 50 years. He was the king of late-night radio from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., which he did year after year. And I have to say, most importantly, he was a friend. And I was very touched just a couple of weeks ago when he said, after 50 years of broadcasting, I would be his final ever interview. And I went down into his garden in Kent and sat with him. Here's a short clip of it.
Welcome to what may be my last interview. I've spent 50 years on the TV and the radio. I've had a great time. In fact, actually, a man who could spend another 50 years on TV or radio is my guest, Nigel Farage.
I think 50 years is a bit optimistic.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, and it was actually a very moving thing to do. Now, the remarkable thing about James for the last 30 years is when he went on the James Whale show, it wasn't just James. When I first went on in the late 90s, there was a producer who wasn't just producing, but started to sort of intervene and talk and become part of it. And Ash Gould and James Whale on Talk TV became the most incredible double act. Ash, gosh, you guys had some fun, didn't you?
We did, man. I think that was the secret of why it went on so long. I mean, it was, well, we had a good chemistry, but that's probably what made it fun. So we stayed together for 30 years, apart from a little gap where he broke the broadcaster's code and had to go on the run like in The Godfather for a few years and then to come back when it all died down a bit. Yeah.
How did it start, Ash? Because, as I say, the first time I came on with you was 98, 99. You were at Talk Sport. And I'm, there with James, and suddenly there's the producer who you might hear in your ear, but suddenly the producer's talking live on air. How did this double act begin?
Well, I went to Talk Radio UK as it was in 95, and they said, do you want to work with James Whale? I go, yeah, brilliant, because I'd watched him when I was 18, and they put us together. And I also worked with a guy called Mike Allen sometimes at the weekend, and I was chipping in on his show. He was sort of a legend of Capital Radio and of hip-hop in London. He basically brought hip-hop, but he told James to try me, I should put me on air, and that's basically how it started.
Amazing. I mean, obviously James is passing, very sad. It had been expected for a long time. Just give you a chance, Ash, to pay your tribute to James Whale.
Well, it was a fantastic, it was a dream show and a dream time to work with him, wasn't it? 30 years, when they said you're going to be working with him, you knew it was going to be exciting. Any other presenters, it'll be all right and that, but you knew something was going to happen, and that was the great thing. He had such a great voice, and he could just roll a bit like yourself. He could just keep going for hours and hours talking. I mean, didn't make a lot of sense, but it sounded good. No, he was fantastic. He could just keep going, couldn't he? It was like beautiful.
And he also, but he also had strong passions and strong beliefs. And actually, underneath it all, James's views were quite traditional, weren't they? Really?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't at all like he was. He came across. I mean, he could be, but he was a very soft, warm guy, as you know. You've known him almost as long as I have.
So yeah, he wasn't like that. Was like a defence mechanism, but a very caring guy. Yeah, and he had his views. You know, he did change his mind. Remember, he was very pro-Remain, but we had that out of him. I think that was because his son's got an Italian restaurant that he has to keep bailing out all the time. You get the pasta cheaper, don't you, if you're in the EU?
Ash, I tell you what, he was quite something, and I think
he was.
You got a great break in your career to team up with James for the last 30 years, and thank you. And thank you so much for joining us this evening.
And thank you for being there, Nigel. Thank you. Thanks, man.
Not a bit. Thank you. Well, Joe, you've been in and around journalism and broadcast for a long time. I mean, James, and this Remain thing he went on, but I don't believe he believed in Remain at all. He just wanted a bloody good argument. Sorry, an argument. But actually thinking about it, he'd been to America. He'd seen talk radio, he'd seen the shock jocks in action.
Think what it was like in 1974. I mean, we had, pretty much the home service, the light service, and that was about it. And we'd got local radio. I mean, I started my broadcasting career in BBC local radio and then went to LBC and
You were LBC, as I was after you.
And IRN. And it was groundbreaking because we didn't care. We were live, we were unscripted. We had Brian Hayes, Australian. We had that same thing, and James was absolutely at the forefront of that, engaging with people. And yes, we heard a clip of him sounding quite rude, but he wasn't really. There was always a smile. And one of the things that you can really tell on radio, you can tell whether somebody's smiling. And the other thing about him, he was ferociously bright and inquisitive, and that's what made him a great broadcaster.
And talk radio, I'm going to argue, Ranald, 50% of talk radio is when we're in our cars. So, the peak times are going to work in the morning, going to school in the morning, coming back in the evening, but it's there 24 hours a day. It actually has become an important part of the democratic process.
Oh, absolutely. It allows issues to be discussed that otherwise simply wouldn't be, because it's generated by people outside the M25, people outside SW1. And, what he did was a really, really important part of that.
No, I agree. The first time I went on the James Wells show, he said to me, come in, you'll be on from 10 to 11, and we'll look at the newspapers as they come. And I said, I'll do 10 to 11. And as the 11 o'clock news approached, James said, I'm very delighted to say that Nigel Farage is staying with us for the next hour. And we got to midnight, and he said, I'm very pleased to say Nigel Farage is staying with us for another hour. And it got to 1 o'clock. I said, James, I've got no trains, I've got no way. And he gave me a lift home. And we've been friends ever since. And Jacob, you met him at the Oxford Union.
I did. He came to speak at the Oxford Union when I was an undergraduate, and everyone expected this terrifying figure, and he was absolutely charming. And he had that key thing of being authentic. He was absolutely genuine, and therefore people warmed to him very, very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, a remarkable figure, and there aren't many people who introduce a new genre into our lives. James genuinely did, and he'll be, certainly from my point of view, and many, many others, very sadly missed. Jacob, what are you talking about tonight?
Well, I've got something that is embargoed until 8 o'clock.
Oh, gosh.
So we've got a few minutes to wait.
Fun.
It's a really,
Give us a clue.
It's a really exciting poll. It's about what powers people want the British government to have against other institutions. And do you know what the results are going to be? I think you might be able to guess, but I'm not going to tell people until 8 o'clock. And I've got the author of the report on from Queen Mary University, and it perhaps answers that silly poll that said 52% of people want to remain in something you can't any longer remain in because we've left. So it's a pretty daft question in the first place.
Yeah, no, it was. Well, Jacob, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. Now, viewers, listeners, I will be travelling tomorrow, and I'll be travelling a bit over the course of the next couple of weeks. So forgive me, I won't be here for about 2 weeks, something like that. But I should miss all of you terribly, I absolutely promise. And I'll come back with an even bigger suntan than I've got already. Fit and healthy and ready for what, of course, is going to be the conference season, the party political conference season, and goodness knows what else. I just hope over the course of the next couple of weeks, things in this country don't inflame too much. Before all of that, and State of the Nation, and the exclusive, let's have a look at the all-important weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a very unsettled, stormy start to the week, the winds over the next 24 hours will ease. It's going to be drier for most with clear spells overnight and plenty of sunshine. During Wednesday, summer weather returns for the time being, with high pressure building back into the southwest. That's helping to kill off the showers into the evening. But there is an area of rain that's just going to affect the north of Scotland for some time, before becoming restricted to the far north as well as Shetland and Orkney. Elsewhere across the UK, clear spells, lighter winds. As a result, temperatures dipping into the single figures in sheltered spots. But plenty of sunshine first thing, certainly some decent sunny spells across the southern half of the UK. There will be a few mist patches for parts of southwest England first thing. They'll lift pretty quickly in the morning, and then blue skies for much of England and Wales, Northern Ireland likewise, southern Scotland through the central belt. Now for the north of Scotland, here we've got thicker cloud and some patchy light rain through the morning. But even this is tending to drift further north into Orkney and Shetland, and it will clear mainland Scotland during the morning. But the sunshine elsewhere prevails. There will be some build-up of cloud during the morning and into the afternoon. Initially just fair weather cloud across the south, and then thicker medium level cloud coming into the west, turning